Welcome to Skill Issues, episode 13. Unlucky, a number for some, but not for us. We're back. In the words of Pavlos, we're reviving the podcast. But I said to you earlier, does that mean it's dead? Really?
Mate, I don't know. I also made the case a second ago that, look, we're pretty bad at uploading on a frequent basis. Like, we did promise at the start of the year, we'll be doing weekly episodes. Hasn't really worked out, has it? What has it been? A couple of weeks since the last one?
Yeah, I think the big thing to take away, though, is that we have gotten busy, and it's a blessing in
That's
disguise. So actually, guys, if you want a quick productivity hack, if you want more work and you don't want to be unemployed, make a podcast or something. It's actually a hack. You know, it means that other things start popping up and getting in the way, if you want to say that. So we both have had a bit of time off, though, and I think, much needed time off. There's been a lot going on. Pavlos, you came to where I am. You came to where I am, and then I left, so I wasn't even there for it.
Yeah, I came to the UK for about a week. Went to see the mother, and yeah, that's basically
back
it.
to the mothership.
Back to the mothership. Back to the UK. Went to Bristol. I found that Ryan Central lives in Bristol, and I was going to go visit him, but we couldn't arrange it because we also were very busy. I was working while I was there as well, with different things, and he was working, doing his own stuff, whether that's coaching and everything. So we didn't get the time to get to meet up, but it was nice. Fun fact, I can now say I have been, okay, for people that aren't from the UK and don't know what this is,
I don't know where this is going.
We'll misinterpret it, but I've been to a gentleman's club.
Okay.
So a gentleman's club is not what you're, for the people that probably have got something dirty in their mind. The gentleman's club that I'm referencing is one where you have to wear a suit and a tie, and it's very posh, and that you go and have champagne, and then you go have a 3-course dinner, and then you play snooker with your shirts, and it's all very fancy, and you get called sir and everything like that. It's something I haven't ever experienced before.
Mate.
And
I still thought you were talking about the other one, because they have gentlemen's clubs here where it's men only, and let's just say the only women in the establishment. Well,
exactly.
They're not wearing suits.
That's what I meant.
Like,
the reason why that is called gentlemen's club is because it's men's only, and it comes from the old traditional gentlemen's club. So
no snooker.
Snooker, yeah, play some snooker.
Well, not in that kind of establishment, is what I was saying.
Right. Sure.
Anyway, my question to you is actually going to be: since the last time you were in the UK, how would you say it's different? When was the last time you went? So, how long has it been?
The last time? About a year. A year.
Maybe not much has changed then.
No, not much has changed,
weather?
mate. Fairly decent. It was stormy at times, actually.
Okay.
But it wasn't full grey all the time, which was a pretty nice surprise.
Nice.
You know?
Fair enough.
Some sunshine here and there.
I've also been around. I went to Malta, and then I went to Italy. As I said before, we managed to sneak into Pro League, so I managed to get that sorted.
Hey.
Brilliant stuff.
Which match did you watch?
I saw FaZe Vitality, so not exactly like a bad game either, to be honest. It was a quarter final, I think, like start of the round of playoffs. I brought my camera with me, so I got some nice pictures of Rops as well, which was cool. Yeah, no, it was a great experience. I will talk less about the esports. We went to Rome in Italy as well. Yeah, just really nice. Like, I think Malta's weird because it's like a mixture of all of the old buildings and then constantly new ones being put up and stacked on top of each other, and it's still kind of figuring out what its identity is as a country, because of course that was part of like the British Empire, would you even say? Yeah, I suppose so, right? Like,
sure,
for ages, until like the 60s. So it's kind of like they're on their own, they're doing their own thing. They're in the EU, which obviously I don't have access to anymore. So shout out to them, I guess. They shoot cannonballs twice a day in the capital.
Oh, do they?
It's really cool. Yeah. No, it was sick. The saluting battery. I mean, it's not actually cannonballs. It's just like a random payload of whatever it is. They load up 2 of the cannons. They have to, I say turn off the other one. They have to unload the other one, just to make sure that it's not an accident, because they have it on standby in case the first one backfires. But yeah, that was pretty much it, right? And Rome, look, there's not much of it left. You have to be pretty imaginative with what you're seeing. The audio guide that we had was going a long way. Let's just say we were making the full use of trying to work out what was what, because like they're
Sweet.
keeping it all together. Their history is literally falling apart. You've got like chains wound up around the pillars as they're falling to the ground. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Parthenon in Athens as well, like that's very, very old, and it's constantly under repair, right? So I imagine it's very difficult to keep everything in a in a fashion that you can sort of know what it used to look like. So yeah, I imagine it's hard work, and for a country so small, with limited funding, I'm sure it's not the easiest of restoring such old infrastructure.
Well, it's good to know that it's not only the podcast in disrepair, but that's what we're here for, right? We're here to carry things onwards. So let's get to the meat and potatoes, the business end of the discussion, the weekly roundup. And to kick things off, there's quite a lot of esports on at the moment. This podcast falls at a time where Dallas has just concluded. We've got Shanghai going on in the background. Plenty happening. But Pavlos, believe you said to me that you've not really been watching too much. You've been keeping yourself out of it.
And it's not because I chose to not watch it. I just haven't had the time to breathe really this past week. Both family stuff as well. You know, people getting old and stuff, needing looking after, and dogs. My doggy is a bit of an old chappy right now.
What type of dog?
She's a little terrier, but she's a mix.
Okay.
So she's more the size of a poodle, but she's a mix. I don't know. She could be anything.
Well,
but she's brown. She's called Choco. She's 14 years old, and she got old a bit too suddenly.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, well, she's still happy. She still gets excited every day at some point when she gets fed.
Well, that's good. When you said she got old a bit too suddenly, I was fearing the worst there, Pavlos. But
no. She's still around. She's still around. But yeah, we're keeping her comfortable.
Well, you know they say that dogs look like their owners, or the other way around. I don't know which way around it is. So if it's a brown dog, you have the brown hair, maybe.
Sure.
I've never seen you two in a room together. So
look, I take care of my appearance a little bit more than I used to, but when I was a bit more scruffy, I definitely looked a lot like my dog. Let me tell you that.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Sure.
Anyway, esports, right? We're not talking
esports.
About dogs.
I haven't been watching much of the esports.
How much have you seen of Shanghai?
Little bits and bobs. I saw that Fnatic is out.
Yeah.
And I'm still a little worried about it. Didn't get to see the full series, so I'm not quite sure how to analyze that. But yeah, Foots, they're strong, right? They're not a weak team. They've gotten stronger. We knew that they had potential. It took them a while this year to get going. But they have. I wonder how long they can last in the lower bracket. Is this actually live? No, these are highlights, right?
I was gonna say, cool. For the audio listeners, we've just brought up some footage from. I believe this is the Genji 100 Thieves game. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie. If we were streaming it live, then that's quite meta actually, because it would be VOD at that point if you think about it. But yeah, no, I mean, you casted actually Foot versus Fnatic in VCT MEA back when
last year,
before it rebranded, right? When it was Red, when we were still in the Colosseum. You know, God bless the Colosseum.
How do you remember that, mate? I barely remember
because it's in your casting reel. Actually, that's where I remember it from.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I've seen the real Colosseum, and well, now I can't tell which one there's less left of at this point in time, unless they're Berlin or the one from thousands of years ago. But there we go. We've managed to tie the two together very nicely.
Yeah, nicely done. What have you been watching though? Because I Am Dallas has been around also. It's not only Valorant. We've got some CS.
I've been watching. I saw a bit of I Am Dallas. I think the whole G Stew storyline that Stewie 2K has come back and managed to run the road all the way through. It was sick. I did look at the stats before this one on HLTV, and to be fair, he has not gone positive in any of their games. But his rating did steadily improve throughout the tournament, and I think it would be nice to see him back on you know, a team competing. I think
Yeah.
a lot of players, and this is something I want to talk about in CS generally, because, you know, to just sort of set the scene, it is the most demanding tier 1 esport in the world. When I'm thinking of the tour and the circuit that you play, the amount of travel that these teams are doing to go from, you know, region to region at times, event to event, keeping up performance, it's a lot. And I think when you're a player in Stewie's position with how old he is, I'm pretty sure he's only like 25, 26, I want to say. Like,
he's been around for a while.
He's in the peak of his career right now. Should theoretically be in the peak of his career. Of course, we know he's not. But like, these guys would just rather go and stream than keep competing. You don't see many people carry on competing and even take that hit down to like a tier 2 level. They would rather, you know, stream like what Stewie does. That's what Stewie was doing up until this point. And yeah, I mean, looking at the stats, G2's still hard carried by Monacy. But yeah, 26, like I say. So I think, look, it would be nice to see him come back, even if it isn't at tier 1 again. Like I said, he's obviously proven that he's at the level. Like, you're still averaging a 1.0 rating, and if you're a more supportive player, he's filling the role of Hooksy in that team. Like, you're not supposed to be the star player. That's what Monacy's for. Top 3 in the world. That's what you expect of him. But like, you compare it with the Swedish scene, for example, which has kind of fallen apart. A lot of those older guys, like JW, like Flusher, they were still hanging around on teams. I've still had the chance to cast a few of those guys, and those were the ones that I was watching when I first started out. So maybe that's what we want to see a little bit more of from our pros in future. I don't know.
I just noticed that he's also North American talent, right? And combine that with the fact that he got to win a trophy in Dallas as well, in home soil, is also just magic for him, right? It's just an unreal, surreal feeling. But it also brought to my attention that Dallas was a pretty damn good event. Like I said, I didn't watch much of the esports, but I got to see clips and everything. The crowd, the atmosphere looked amazing, right? And I saw the beer wall. We all know the Aussie events where we've got the beer towers. What do they call them? Where they stack cups of beer.
I know what you mean.
Something like that. But in I Am Dallas, they just put cans or bottles of beer on a wall, and they just made a beer wall. So they've made their own thing there. I was just gonna make a political joke. I'm not gonna go there.
About building the wall.
About building a wall.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, thankfully nobody had to pay for that. Yeah, it's cool to see that North American Counter Strike still exists, and still there's passion for it as well. Because I think a lot of people were afraid that it's losing track, and I think there's some tier 2 circuits that are keeping it going. Because like, I feel for the longest time, for 3-4 years, when I was casting like tier 2 online circuits, EMEA Europe was just way miles ahead with the amount of events they had available, how much exposure they could get, how many events they could play, and obviously with COVID going on, you were only limited to the events that were happening in your region. But I feel like there's way more in the tier 2 system in Americas now going on, both South and North America, and I think that's helping develop talent and help refuel, you know, some younger players. And I'm noticing a lot of younger players playing now as well, right? Because there was a time where I felt like the youngest players around were like 20-year-olds, and now we're starting to see like 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds coming out of the FPL or Face It servers and are just like popping off.
I think it's hard to say as well at the moment, though. Like, just for example, Valorant or Counter Strike in North America, because you look at the top teams, there are a lot more top teams in Valorant that come from like American regions, for example, or you've got like 100 Thieves at the moment, and like that's where people are headed. But at the same time, I think the fan base is always there, though. Like, okay, sure, maybe you don't have the players, but in terms of Counter-Strike fans in North America, there's a lot of them. They just, you know, they're a voice rather than like a presence in the server. And I think you get to see that with stuff like Dallas, which is cool.
Mm-hmm. Just to add on what you just said, mine went blank. Yeah, exactly. So you said that Valorant may have a little bit more control over the North American market, right? Rather than Counter Strike
Kind of,
or
but
has a
also just
little
by,
has
like,
a
the
little bit
amount
more
of
player
events
base
too and stuff. Do you know what I
amount of
mean? Like,
events, sure.
I think CS does get its Dallas every year, though. I think we need to remember. So
it does. It will maintain that presence there because the event is always epic and people will always have a good time going there. Because it's also a matter of having a good experience while you're there. I think that's something Counter Strike are really good at. Developing an atmosphere, developing a good crowd. I think Valorant still has things to learn about that, but it's also two different types of crowds. I think you've got different people watching and going to watch those events. Maybe you're a little bit more nerdy and I don't know, not there for the football chanting and everything like that. That you know we see a little bit more in Counter Strike. Well, a lot more in Counter Strike. But yeah, like the fact that Valorant might have a lot more power in the when it comes to the player market in the Americas, I don't think is a bad thing. I think it's a good thing currently that Counter Strike realized this and are trying to compete a little bit more. So we're seeing better quality events come from that. So there's a bit of competition coming out. Yeah, on the other side, I think EMEA needs to do a better job catching up with the Counter Strike of that region as well, because Europe is just the base of first-person shooters, specifically Counter Strike. So it's good competition, I think, and as long as both of them want to keep up and want to, you know, have a piece, because we can reap as viewers, right? I'm gonna take the viewer perspective here. We can reap the benefits of it all, right? We can enjoy everything. We can go to any of the events as long as they're fun, as long as they're good, right?
As long as they're competing for us. Well.
True, that's true. But as long as they're competing for us, we're good, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad there's a new player in Americas again. Well, not that it's new. ESL has been doing events there for a long time, but I'm glad that it's strong, right?
For sure. I think that the thing for me as well, and I was literally having this conversation the other day, what makes that more entertaining though sometimes? And the part that I'm thinking here, and maybe I'm going off and I'm alone in this, is just the fact that we get like repeat locations, like your Cologne, your Katowice, your you know, Dallas, for example. And not to say necessarily that these are like the most dazzling locations in the world. I think that
definitely
consistency certainly helps. Yeah, that was exactly why I said it. I would love to go to Cologne and you know, see the cathedral and whatnot. And that's not just me talking about the Lanxess, but yeah, like I think that's the thing. At the same time, when you compare it to Valorant, there is a global audience and you need to cater to that. I think like CS isn't as big in Pacific, for example, where, you know, we're starting to do events now, you know, where we've got our Korean event for champions. We've
different venues.
I mean, to just speak about Asia as a whole, we already had Tokyo, we're doing Shanghai at the moment. Like it's all there. Do you know what I mean? So I think you have to tap into those. And you want to make it accessible, but at the same time, does that then mean that there's not like a hub or like, oh, we're coming back here again because we know that it's going to be good? Maybe they're just trying to see what sticks, and it's like, oh, well, we loved doing this one last time, like, you know, Japan, for example. Let's bring it back because we know that there's an audience there that wants to go and watch it.
Look, I'm not going to criticize what Riot is going after by trying to have events everywhere.
Because to be fair, very quickly, they do that. They've done that in League because MSI is in the copper box, and now they're doing Worlds there. So I guess it's like, you know, if it works, then you do it again.
So it's like you said, League of Legends. That's the testing ground for what Valorant is currently doing. How they sort of did events, and it felt like it rotated every couple of years to the same place, right? If China had MSI 1 year, then they'll probably have Worlds in 2 years. Or if Europe had MSI 1 year, they'll have it the other, and so on and so forth, right? They do tend to change venues a lot, which has its cons, in my opinion. The fact that they've done it so much and they can be so agile with how they set up is probably how everything works with them. But for ESL, it feels like they can have their bases on every single one of these cities and have their tech there ready. And they know how to set everything up regarding to the venue. They know how to facilitate everything because every year they can literally improve on what happened the previous one. And now they've got tons of years of experience running these tournaments at the same locations, because it's always going to be, there are always going to be location derived problems, right? There's always going to be some sort of intricate tech issue or pipeline issue that you've got to take care of. And I think the fact that ESL or any Counter-Strike events that can run these things at the same venues year after year, I think they just benefit from it because, like we said, it's one less problem to think about. So then you can focus on other things. You can focus on making it a good show, making it more creative. You know what works, so you'll stick to that, and then you have more time to make everything else your oyster. And for Valorant, I think that's a little bit of a problem.
Yeah,
that
you see it with Shanghai, for example, right?
Yeah.
And like, you know, the fact that it's a smaller broadcast team as well, no EMEA casters, I think makes a difference for the viewers and people in this region to maybe feel a bit more connected to it in a way when you're, you know, following your own region and you've not got those ambassadors there, shall we say? Because it's kind of like one way to speak of it. Not saying that it's like, oh, we need the bias to creep in or anything along those lines, but I think a big thing for me with the venues as well, to just mention another positive, is that if you do have the same like event happen again, it adds a little bit of history. And I think the thing for me right now is that it can be a little difficult sometimes to determine the difference between like a Masters and a Champions. Like, okay, cool. Champions is the big one at the end of the year, but does it feel too much different to Masters? Like, in terms of, well, the production is still going to be great. You're still going to have your huge venue. All of the international teams that qualify will be there. It's only ever looks slightly different in turn. I think that's where the circuit points will start to come in towards the end of the year, right? Like between stages, and like that's the thing as well. Getting used to what this system's going to look like for this year.
Yeah, I mean, we know what Riot is going for here. They're just trying to create player bases everywhere. They're trying to excite people from various different regions to say that we have noticed you, right? And we want you to be part of this ecosystem.
Rewarding them for it.
100%. And that's exactly why we saw some of the first events now that there's this partnership system. The first events were what? Before the partnership system, Turkey, right? They know that there's a giant gap in the market there. They want to try and get all the PC gamers to connect with Valorant, and it worked. There's a ton of Turkish talent developing. Brazil, one of the biggest developing markets currently, one of the greatest populations on this planet, and they haven't had access to PCs. And now that they slowly are gaining more access, there's more room to this, and there's young players wanting to start to play first-person shooters because there's a long history of first-person shooters in that region as well. With Brazil being one of the most legendary ones, they just want to access that. That's why they played a knock-in, right? And now, obviously, China. Obviously with that game releasing, as soon as they had the opportunity to get a major event there, they've done so. And so it's pretty easy to understand what Riot is trying to do here. It's trying to gain as many people as possible in these early years. And I imagine once they've got their player bases sorted and have realized what works, it's what you were saying earlier, Hazza. Once they realize what works, they'll go with that probably. But for now, their priorities lie elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it is kind of cool to sort of see this stuff happen anyway, and like as I said, be rewarded, right? Cater to it. Yeah. And at the end of the day, what does VCT stand for? Valorant Champions Tour.
It's a tour, guys.
It's the traveling circus. You know, it goes around the globe. And yeah, look, that's the era that they're in, right? We're touring. We're seeing what's gonna work. Just please come to London, please come to the United Kingdom. Dude, I feel like the crowd would be insane there too, honestly. Like, do
you reckon there's enough to fill up like an arena in the UK?
Easily. Yeah? Easily. Yeah, something like the Copper Box. And this is the thing too, as I said before, look, MSI, they did that. I went. I don't even watch League. I didn't know what the fuck was going on, but I went anyway because it's like, you know,
it's a dope event.
It's live esports, live sport, live anything, man. Like, just get me a seat, get me a beer, get me some incredibly overpriced food, because any venue food always costs way more than it should.
True.
And I'm there, 100%. Anyway, wow, what a weekly roundup. We've already started to sort of head into the bits and pieces that we wanted to talk about, which is nice. And we're going this is such a 180, like the next...
True. Do you want to use that as a last topic?
This is a weekly item, actually, technically. We've just spoken about the events. this is a 180, an arm bar, shall we say?
Sure,
Some kind of a jab. I don't really know much about fighting. Pavlos,
an uppercut, just turning the tide of the fight.
Has been released. Multiversus has been released. Have you played it?
That's true. I have. Now, it has been in beta for a year, I think. A lot of people played it. I didn't. I only played it now that it's been properly released. Some friends were friends were playing it on our Discord server, and I was like, cool, yeah, I'm in, I'll try it out. And honestly, it was a lot of fun. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this as well, this is a mini W of mine, right? Obviously, my girlfriend and I have been a long distance relationship, so whenever we've got time together, we try and use it as best as possible. Like, we hang out, we go out on exploring, whether that is like walking, going hiking, doing activities, right? Watching movies. We try and spend quality time together. So there's never really because we've obviously got small parts of time to work with, right? We've got a week, we've got a couple of weeks until we have to go back to studying and whatnot in the countries that we are. But recently we have a bit of extra time. She was here in Cyprus. She was chilling on her phone, playing, I don't know, she was probably scrolling or something.
Yeah.
And I realized I was scrolling, and I had my computer next to me, and I just I just opened up the computer and see how she would respond, right? By putting up a game.
Yeah.
And I was like, what game am I going to play? I recently booted up Multiversus, so I was like, sure, I'll play a bit of that, play a bit of Bugs Bunny, and play a few games. And I started booting up, but she didn't mind. Usually she'll like say something. Oh, you're ignoring me. Why are you doing this and that? Not spending time with me. But she was doing her own thing, right? She was scrolling. I took the perfect opportunity to play a game. So I booted up the game, started playing. She saw Bugs Bunny in the background, and then something magical happened. She put her phone down and started watching.
Oh.
And while I was doing something, she started laughing. I was like, "What's that?" I was like, "Oh, that's so cool! You can play as Bugs Bunny." And then I bought a character, I bought Morty from Rick and Morty, and she was like, "Wait, you can buy a Rick and Morty character? You can play." It's a Warner Brothers game, right? So there's plenty of Warner Brothers characters in there. So there's DC, there's Game of Thrones. I didn't know Game of Thrones were owned by Warner Brothers, by the way.
Really?
But yeah. There's Arya. I'm not sure if there's Jon Snow. I haven't looked into it that much. But it's pretty darn cool. And she was like, okay, yeah, I might be playing this. And I got very excited because it's not often that she'd say, sure, I'll play a game with you. And the only time I managed her to get play a game was when I was still studying in the Netherlands. And the last time I was there, I installed Portal 2 on her computer. I was like, boot up this game, let's play some co-op. Obviously, she found it very difficult because she was never a gamer, but it was good times. But because it was difficult, it never happened again. So yeah, this is a milestone in my 5-year relationship.
I'm just as soon as you're talking about this really cute story and your relationship and stuff, I'm watching the gameplay in the background. Again, like me being the audio listener guy, like making sure everyone knows what we're talking about. Is there fucking LeBron James in that game from Space Jam? You can play as LeBron James.
Yes, you can play as LeBron James.
Random. I think it is funny.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, it is. It's so random. It's got a slight hint of Fortnite about it with how it's just like everyone from everywhere.
Sure.
But it's cool.
Why
I think
not?
the only part missing from the story that would have made it better was if you were like, "Yo, you want to Smash? I mean, sorry, wrong game. Do you want a multiverse?" Get it? Because Smash Brothers.
End
is
the
also
podcast here, guys.
See, I thought it was funny. Get it? Because it's a game. Never mind.
I don't know what's worse. This is a gentleman's club joke.
It's been what a day. Yeah, there he is, LeBron James. I remember when the Space Jam film came out. I don't know if you remember all of those videos of the stretchy LeBron James that you could buy in the supermarket, and people started filling them up with water, and they're like expanding and like I don't know, man. That's what it reminds me of.
I heard that the second.
That's the outfit, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's from the Space Jam. When I heard the Space Jam movie came out, and people watched it, I heard very bad reviews, so I never ended up watching it. Oh my god! For the audio listeners, this is exactly
there's a LeBron James balloon on the screen. Yeah,
filled up with water, I imagine.
People were just abusing him. Like,
why? What's LeBron James ever done to you?
I don't know. It was a TikTok trend to like do random stuff to like, yeah, they like cut a
This
hole
feels like
in the hand and then put a pipe in it and like zip tied it on so that you can fill it with water. I've seen people do this in like their gardens before and stuff.
What
you
is
know,
this?
like with like a Sonic or something. But it's crazy how much it expands.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, it does sound cool. My friends have actually got into fighting games recently because, as I said earlier, I was watching REM Dallas on the TV in their living room while they had a tiny CRT and they were playing Melee underneath it, which is cool.
Ooh,
so
nice.
that one's, still going somehow. People are still playing it, which is cool. And my story, right, to mention my partner on the podcast again, and I know she'll probably be listening, so hello, is that she's actually started Skyrim now. So we've jumped straight in. We've jumped straight in with that one. Yeah, and she was like, oh, I just beat the first dragon or something, and I'm like, oh, well, you're about this time. You should get a horse. Tell me how much it costs, or whatever when you get it. And then she's like, yeah, I stole the horse, and I was like, the reason why I asked you how much the horse costs is because I stole one too, so I don't know. So like, I was kind of hoping she'd do me a favor, but apparently not. So I never finished it, honestly, but no, I mean, she seems to be enjoying it, so that's cool.
If anything ever works for you, like with video games and such, give me recommendations.
There's such a shared like mentality when it comes to these games though as well. Something like Skyrim, I feel like everyone has the same experience. She was telling me like, oh, I got killed by a giant instantly. I was like, yep, I made that mistake as well. It's like, oh well, I went to this place and met this character. It's like, that's how Bethesda games are. And honestly, I think it would be nice for an Elder Scrolls 6 soon. And more importantly, another Fallout game. I love the TV show. It was so good.
Just to segue into something I wanted to talk about as well, the fact that Multiverses came out, it's not the only big franchise, big universe game that has come out recently, right? There was this Spider-Man movie. We saw Marvel Rivals, I think, came out. Okay. The alpha version of it, at least. The people got invited to play it. Streamers, big content creators and stuff, pro players of first-person shooters got to play it. We're starting to see a few of those pop up quite a bit, like big corporation money thrown onto these universe games. And I wanted to hear, do you have any thoughts with that? Because obviously, seeing Marvel Rivals Alpha, I was like, has this got esports potential? Or seeing Multiverses, does this have esports potential? Because obviously I work in esports. Obviously that's a question I'm going to ask. So I wonder what your thoughts were around this, and have you seen any gameplay of these games? Obviously not Spider-Man. That doesn't have esports potential, but about the other ones. Yeah.
It's just, to me, it's the MCU effect, People realized that, oh my god, if you can have all of the characters in one place, that's actually pretty fucking sick. Everyone, has little characters that they like, oh, I really like this guy, I like this guy. But often they never interact. And I think it's that interaction which people really like, especially. And as I said before, we saw that with Infinity War, we saw it with Endgame. But it is starting to happen quite a lot. I think as well, companies will see what Fortnite did and like getting bought with Disney as well, and all of the links that are popping up there, and they're like, how can we get our version of this, and how can we apply it to something new? And well, Marvel are owned by Disney now as well, you've got to remember. So it's another situation where it's just them branching out into a different area. There's Marvel this, there's a Marvel fighting game, there was the Marvel story game, I can't remember. They had the Avengers game, right? But it was like, none of them looked like any of the actors from the films. It was just, based off of the comic book characters, but rehashed into the game.
Have you seen the Marvel Rivals game, in the alpha version of it? It's like an Overwatch sort of rip-off.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting, right? Because I think, obviously, these games, people will be like, oh, they're trying to hop on a wave or something. It takes a few years for these to get developed. Like, they'll be being games developed right now for a trend that we don't know is necessarily even going to arrive yet. But I think my understanding is it's probably trying to not fill the void that Overwatch left, because OWCS is back and orgs are getting involved, and it's actually going pretty well, is my understanding from the outside looking in. Is that people, again, want a slice of that pie with this kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And you're even seeing it with Valve, for example, because I don't know if you've seen the leaks, but they've got a hero like 6v6 game coming out as well.
I've heard about that. And the thing with Steam, when you hear about leaks, they're usually closer to release than you expect. Because I remember
the game looks like very fleshed out. Yeah.
Like remember with Counter Strike 2, we heard about that game and got excited about it just a couple months before it was actually out, and everybody was bloody surprised. Yeah, everybody was bloody surprised that wait, what? It's actually coming now, and so that was pretty exciting. So the fact that we're hearing, I think Valve are pretty good with keeping things on the down low. So maybe we can get excited about something like that. But it's one of those things that you can't force out too much, right? Because I remember Overwatch instantly tried to force out an esports scene before the community developing and getting around the game as much. And I think it's a lot like what the gaming community looks like in general, not the esports community, right? Because if you look at the games that popped up recently, it's usually the indie games, right? You've got Palworld, right? They completely took the Pokemon industry by storm. That was a few indie developers that just made a real. I mean, look, it popped off. People bought it. People loved it. That's all it needs to happen.
I've not heard about it since, though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but doesn't matter.
No,
right? It made a lot of money.
And
right?
The thing is, too, what you said there was like, oh, the Pokemon industry. It's like, it was just Pokemon.
Exactly.
You're talking, I guess, I don't know, what would you even call it? The collectible pets that also fight genre of games. Well, it is based off gacha, like the balls in the machine that has the thing in it, right? But yeah, oh my god, the player base has absolutely tanked. So last 30 days hasn't really changed too much. But since March, it's lost over 1 million concurrent players.
When we're talking about games from indie developers, that's going to happen. It's normal. You don't have people working it all the time. But what they do correctly is listen to the community. And the community wants to be able to handle it themselves. Put mod availability to it. Watch it take form.
Right? It's theirs to keep.
And it will develop. Right? And that's what Counter-Strike did good very early. That's how Counter-Strike was given birth, right? It was due to Half-Life mod. And many other games, right? Which one was the one... the finals, also a brilliant game. Okay, that you can't do much modding of that, but they heard what the community wanted. Break freaking walls and everything. Make the environment breakable. People enjoy that. What's the other game that is basically a Battlefield?
The new one, right?
I don't know. Is it the Battlefield one that looks like basically Roblox, but they have proximity chat and everybody went crazy about it? I forgot what that name's called because I didn't even play it.
I can't remember. Yeah,
BattleBit. Thank you, Harry Bow in the background. But yes, people went crazy about it because they did what people wanted, right? And they didn't. And it was indie developers that followed what people wanted, what the community wanted. Now, big corporations are already coming in with multi-million investments, and they're not making their returns because they're not listening to the community. They're like, we're just going to make this a very polished game, real graphics, real physics, as real as they can be. Right? Spend so much money on it, and it won't make a difference because the game is actually shit.
We spoke about this before. Like, you don't have big developers, big publishers, and this is the scary thing too. I saw a tweet, I can't remember where it was posted a while ago. They're like, big developers are not making, like, C-grade games, B-grade like small games. They are spending shit tons of money on making huge AAAs, and if it doesn't work, you're screwed. And that's literally it. And the one thing I will say about smaller games, and maybe this is my hot take and when people don't agree with me, I think, sure, if you're like an indie developer, cool, like you make a little thing, you get it greenlit, it goes on the Steam library, whatever, fine. You post it on your own website, cool. I really hate like mid-tier developers or whatever who just publish unfinished games. Finish your fucking games, please. Yeah. And it's the same with stuff like XDefiant, like the finals, like stuff like that. It's like, oh, here's your early access, here's your millionth beta. the game's still not out, but you can spend money on in-game transactions and stuff, and it's like just. I guess it doesn't. At this point, what is early access and what is released?
Look,
like, does it make a difference?
It's people that want to get a game out into the world, and they don't have time to maintain it because they've got other things going on, right? Yeah. Look at us. We said we'll do a podcast every week, right? Have we been able to be consistent with that? No, because life took over. It wasn't our main thing, and that's probably the same with all these indie developers, right? They're trying to get a job. They're not making money out of making these games, and I completely understand you want to finish game, and I share that testament. But sometimes, it's
yeah. I think as well for me, I don't know what a good analogy. I don't know what a good analogy for this is at all, to be honest.
Okay, on the screen currently, there is
Star Citizen's actually kind of decent though, because they are just continuing to like work on it. I guess I don't know.
Is that 705,000 raised? 705 million raised before the game is even released.
Project, yeah.
Is this an indie? Isn't this an indie game? What is it?
I think it's like you do spaceships and stuff, but it's actually very realistic. Like it's incredibly realistic. It's really cool. That's the thing. Oh, Haribo, you've actually turned the mic on.
Have you turned the mic on?
I was going to say, I was worried for a second. This is our producer, guys. Don't get scared.
All right.
It's not God intervening.
Has been in alpha since 2012, maybe. They're pioneering like new technology. They're doing a thing called server meshing, which is like it will distribute loads across multiple servers, so everyone has really good server like performance. But you can see other people on other servers in real time. So I don't know how to describe it, but it's really complicated because you have to stream entities to not just your server but other servers of people in the same vicinity, and it's really hard to do. But they've raised 700 million, and it's still in alpha, and it's buggy as shit, but it's good and it's fun because there's no other game like it. Like you can fly in a unit in a system, go anywhere, land on any planet. It's not restricted, and it's crazy. And that next patch, there's a new solar system. I think they're going to do another one. They can add Earth at one point if they want. It's freaking... it's crazy.
Yeah,
man.
It's juicy, right? It's juicy. But I think the
I love that
difference
this is Haribo's debut, by the way.
Is that there's like a long-term goal. It's like, this is the game. We have committed to pledging this money, and we're developing new technology, and this is what we're doing. Whereas the other ones... This is the analogy I've settled on. It's just like taking heroin. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I want a quick fix. Let me just inject this shitty game into my bloodstream. You know what I mean? Like Palworld, for example. You know? Not saying I have any experience taking heroin, but I couldn't think of anything better to say. You know, like, it's cheap, it's dirty, it's nasty. You heat it up in a spoon.
It's
like,
different.
Nobody wants Palworld.
It's refreshing.
You know, yeah.
I don't know, mate. I feel like people do. Like, the things... Maybe they don't want it long term, but it just fills a gap they've been looking for. And that's what I like about it. I mean, look at Lethal Company, right? There's nothing special about it.
My camera.
What did he break? I heard that. Am I going to be solo podcasting for a sec?
I've made the comparison that Palworld's like heroin and broken my camera in the process.
You broke your camera?
No, I bashed the desk and it froze. But still, there's a podcast, people. All hands on deck. Carry on.
Yeah, what I was about to say, though, Lethal Company is out, right? Just to continue with your point. Hey, his camera's back.
I'm back.
And there's nothing special about that game, graphics-wise, physics-wise, engine-wise. Nothing crazy about that. But it gave the freedom for people to put their own mods, go crazy, cosmetics, more enemies, more experiences, more maps, everything like that. And it had that replayability that everybody loved about it. And also the proximity chat just made everything hilarious, and streamers took that and made it. So it's like, there are moments where these small games are taking over, and you don't need multi-millions to be thrown into them to actually make a good game. And I think that's what these big developers need to learn, that it's not a matter of throwing money at the problem. It's actually having good fucking ideas and listening to the community.
Yeah, I think the issue is, though, it's like, if you want to make return on the investment, if you don't make a huge game, sometimes there can't be huge money in it. But I guess at the same time,
that's fair.
That's what these indie developers are kind of proving, that if it does get popular, it can still be
to follow up on that
beneficial.
To follow up on that before we move on to our next subject, is that you're right. The fact that they're putting a lot of money into it is because they know that people love these universes, such as like we were talking multiverses, Marvel Rivals. They know people will play this game just because now they can play Superman, they can play Batman, they can play Joker, or they can play Spider-Man in the other game, play Groot, right, or Rocket, and be able to mount Groot as well. Like there are these characters that people are going to want to play, and if you make it a good game, there's more chances that they're going to pay money for it as well, and pay money to gain cosmetics or pay money to actually play the game. So I get why these happen, but I think they need to calm down a little bit.
I think
that's it.
This episode has a new identity. This is just games that we enjoy. It's not even esports. At this point, I feel like we just we derail it. We'll save will esports be mainstream for the next episode, perhaps, because we've been going for quite a while here. And I want to then hop in, and with you all at home getting that little nugget of what we're going to be doing next time. I want to ask you, Pavlos, what are your top games of all time then? That
you've opened the Pandora box.
What goes on your Mount Rushmore? Let's say the faces of which 4 characters, or from games or franchise.
Do you know the first thing that popped into my head? It might not be my favorite game of all time, but it was the first thing that popped into my head. Speedrunners.
Okay. And
do you remember Speedrunners?
Yeah, I do. And let's actually preface this as well. It can't be an esport title. So it had
an esport scene.
Yeah, but okay. Speedrunners is fine. But what I mean is, before we start this, ground rules. No Valorant, no CS, no.
No major esports. Gotcha.
Nothing like that. Nothing like that.
Yeah, gotcha. Speedrunners was the first game that came into my head. I learned about it watching Markiplier, Cinnamon Toast Ken, PewDiePie play it, all of them together. Some of the best videos I've ever watched when I was a kid, and I was like, sure, let's play it. I grinded that game out, and I had a couple of friends that played it too, but I played it way more than they did because I absolutely loved it, and when they did, I destroyed them, and part of that was like a good feeling.
The one where you're running in the circle, right? But it's
okay. So Speedrunners is basically. Yes, so Speedrunner is basically it's sort of a platformer where there's 4 players that control their own little character that have grapple, and they run, and they've also got little bonuses and some speed ups as well that they can get, whether throwing boxes behind them or throwing rockets and stuff. But essentially, you need to be the fastest. At some point, you can see the screen closing in; it becomes smaller and smaller. Therefore, you need to have. Once you create a big enough gap with the person behind you, they are out of the screen, and therefore they lose. And basically, you've got to be the fastest. That's why it's called speedrunner. Very simple concept, and very, very smooth gameplay as well. The grapple, it's very satisfying when you manage to hit those min-maxes on various different things, whether that's hitting the wall at the right time, getting off the wall at the right time, releasing your grapple, hitting the grapple, and finding the right speed with the gravity. It's all so fun and satisfying, and I love that game to bits. So that's my number one. I'll let you go for your number one before we talk about other
number
ones,
one is you've gone straight in at your favorite game ever. Is that it?
That's the first.
Or just
the fact that it came up first in my head. You can't rank them.
Yeah.
You can't rank them. But the fact that that's the game that came up first in my head. That's what I'm saying for now. And we'll bring up the rest later. But what about you, Hazza?
For me, I think again, I'm feeling the vibes from you straight through the screen of those smaller little indie titles as well and stuff. And there used to be the Norwich Games Festival. I say used to be. It was on the other week, but I didn't go. At the Forum, which was this huge library building, but open space for people to do stuff. My camera's frozen again. It doesn't matter. The Queen opened it in 2002. Don't tell me why I remember that, but I do. And essentially, I remember they also had a Minecraft server for it, so you could go around and there was a recreation of the building in Minecraft, and that segues me quickly from yours to mine. It's got to be the easiest face to carve into the stone wall of the Mount Rushmore. Steve, it's just a cube. We're going with Minecraft. I think it's just such a classic. You can't go wrong with it. You give someone a sandbox, you give them the tools, and they will make great things. And look, I think the one negative thing I will say is it's so good because I played it so much. Now I can't, like, I don't actually go back and do that like once every year, once every however long to like go back and do it, because it's like by the time you've done all of the stuff that you start out with so many times, like without mods, it's hard to try and find a new way to do it. And we did actually do it with mods recently. That sounds really strange. You and me did play Minecraft on a modded server with Cairo.
We did, yeah.
Other than like the little bits that help out the base game, I find it so difficult to find out like where do I start when I've got all of these like factory plugins and like tech it in there, like pipes and things to carry oil and all of that stuff. It's like, where do you even start? You've opened Pandora's box at that point, you know. It's tough.
Sure. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I'll go over it. Like Minecraft, there's so many things to me, right? Because it's either those online servers, the Hunger Games. That's where basically Battle Royale started, right? That's the birth of Battle Royales, that genre, right? Did you ever play Hunger Games on different servers?
Yeah.
Was it no, that's a completely different thing.
You know, I was calling for like, you know, Battle Royale games way before we got like PUBG or anything like that in the first place, right? Like I saw the Minecraft Hunger Games game and I was like, whoever owns the right to the Hunger Games needs to make a version of this because it's a gold mine. I said this when I was like, you know, 11 or 12 years old. There's absolutely no record of it, so you'll have to take my word for it. But you know, that then spawned into like such a big genre, right? But the fact that you could even just do something like that in Minecraft was crazy. I think like the setup, it didn't require too much, but even like little server mods and tweaks and things like that, just endless possibility, man. Like you've seen the command blocks now, you can do so many different things. I remember watching videos of the snapshots. So the way that Minecraft works is interesting, is because you get like mini updates of unreleased builds throughout the year, and then they push the big update with all of that stuff in it to the live version at the end. And I remember always watching the update videos like every week. They would always be named really weird things. It would be like 1.41 W6B or something with like letters and numbers and shit, and as a kid I just didn't understand it. But yeah, it'd be like, oh, we added a new command now where if you press a button, then it'll replace a block at a certain coordinate. And you can imagine people just get so creative with all of these things. And it makes for like different, like you can tell stories through adventure maps and stuff. And to not have it on my list as I bash the desk again and make my camera turn off is just to accentuate my point. Yeah, like it's the GOAT. I would even put it number one, to be fair. And I haven't touched it in ages, but it would go there. And as a little sub bar, I put Gary's mod in there as well because it's like pretty good. Sandboxy. I actually preferred more of like the PvP, hide and seek, like murder, like all of that stuff, because I don't think I have ever felt a stronger blend of like anxiety but hilarity at the same time than being chased in one of those games by someone else.
For some reason my computer when Gary's mod was at a peak wasn't great, so and also the internet wasn't great either, so downloading mods took forever, loading up maps took forever, so Gary's mod was something I wasn't quite capable of playing at the time.
And you know what the saddest part about all of this is? People nowadays just think that Gary's mod is the Skibbity toilet game. That's it. They'll never know. They'll never know.
The OGs know. Well, going to the other game that came up to my head that will always be in my top 3, top 5, whatever you want to call them, is Castle Crashers. Now, that hits some nostalgia. It's a co-op game. It's by an indie company called Behemoth. And basically, all you do, you've got a little figure, and you break down enemies, go through castles, chasing after princesses and whatever, and it's bloody dope. I loved it. I don't know why I loved it so much. It's very simple. You can upgrade your knives. You can have little cute creatures that follow you around and give you perks. You can collect them all. You can collect all the knives as well, so it has a bit of longevity to it. You can play it on a harder mode. And you play it with friends. It's a co-op, basically, right? You play up to four friends. Now, personally, I mostly played it with one other friend, so it was just the two of us. But it was a great time during, I don't know, middle school that I'm just fondly remembering. You know, it's brilliant times, brilliant game, very simple, beautiful graphics, as in like cartoonish style. I bought the DLC of the Kawaii guy. You know, which his special ability brought out rainbows and some plushy unicorn as well, and my weapon was a lollipop. So it's just super stupid things like that. People will have knives. I had my unicorns, and it was just a lot of fun. I just enjoyed it to bits. So Castle Crash is up there. If you've never played it, mate, you can still play it today, and it's a ton of fun.
Yeah, I haven't, but I know exactly which game you're talking about because I've seen it before. And in some ways, the boss fights and stuff, kind of just that classic platformer style reminds me a lot of like Cuphead, for example. But when you were saying rainbows and unicorns, that immediately made me think of the Pyrovision from Team Fortress.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I used to spend a lot of time on Team Fortress back in the day, just in this server, which was the most plain and simple like map that you could ever ask for. So there's two spawns kind of hidden around the corner from each other. You have to turn into each other with a big tower in the middle. And it was just this orange map. Like, it was the main base of the map. So for those who don't know, in any Source engine game like Valve game, the when you're building the map, if you don't have a texture, the default texture is just like an orange wall, and that's literally it. There was no decor, no details, nothing. It was just a map, and you played it, and it was a lot of fun. And I would just remember sitting in like a Skype call with my friends and just talking while I was like bashing a turret with a hammer, because as engineer, you don't really shoot anyone most of the time.
No.
And if
Make sure the turret is alive.
and if no one is a spy and they're sapping your stuff and, you know, killing
Easiest
off
game of
your
life.
yeah,
But
it's
the
not
emote
even,
with
you're
his
not
feet up
doing
and everything.
anything, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of my other ones, I would say, that's sort of popped into my mind.
Sure.
But the next game, which I also spent a lot of time PvPing, Fistful of Frags, and I don't think many people are going to know this one at all.
Googling
This
that.
is a like a classic Western game, also in the Source engine, and it's free to play. Anyone can play it on Steam. It's just a shootout game. You get kills, different weapons give you a different amount of points, so it's kind of like a gun game, and you can open chests that'll, like, you know, unlock it over periods of time, and like you can get better weapons and stuff. But it's like classic maps where you've got a train going through the hills, or you know, you're out somewhere in Mexico, because you've got different factions that you can join, because it's like a team deathmatch. So you've got like the, you know, the vigilantes, the cowboys, like, yeah, the Mexicans and stuff. You can get health back by drinking whiskey, which also makes you which makes you nauseous and like shakes the screen, but it like temporarily heals you. So it's actually quite good. And it's just like all of the old guns, like revolvers and stuff, like slow reloads. So you'll be like jumping around someone trying to like reload your gun and stuff. But it's just such a simple game, but a lot of fun, and one that I don't think many people will really know about either.
No,
I think
I don't know about it.
there might be like one YouTuber who made a video about it a while ago, and I'll have to check who it is who's done like a gameplay of it. But it's just one of those things where every now and then you'll turn it on and give it a go. So I think Germa tried it a while ago. I don't know. The channel says Classic PC Games. I don't know if that's a big channel or not. I don't think it is. Video Game Donkey played it. Actually, that's not true. That's actually just an advertisement for, is this the worst game ever? And it's the Golem game. But yeah, I don't know. Like, a few people have tried it, and it's good fun. Honestly, try it. It's a free to play game. There's a Ratlobber video on it too, calling it the best free game you've never played. So give it a try.
I'm gonna create a genre for you, and you're gonna have to answer this for me. But first, I'm gonna give you my example of that genre. So the game that you'll go in playing with friends, but you'll come out as enemies. Right? So have a good thought while I give you my example. For me, that's Battle Block Theater, from the same developers as Castle Crashers, Behemoth. Played it with the exact same friend. We're still great friends, but mate, I still have him as a nickname in my contacts as the guy that killed you a ton in Battle Block Theater, because it's just still so annoying. Basically, it's still a platformer. You've got different puzzles that you have to break. You've got to collaborate with the other person to basically solve all these little puzzles. And it's so easy to kill your teammate. And sometimes you just want to do it on purpose because it's so bloody funny. And yeah, it was obvious to say he was much better at the game than I was, and much more creative with the ways he was killing me. So yeah, that's why he was so good at it. But still, very fond of those memories.
I'm learning more about you, man. You're a platformer party game guy. You really are.
Yeah, I guess. To be fair, I'm more of a multiplayer game guy. I'm more of a play with friends person, right?
Sure.
I'd rarely go into solo single player games. You know. I don't do that much. Don't know why. Just when I start one, I don't end up finishing it or don't spend much time on it. I just, I enjoy the community aspect to it. I enjoy it as quality time with friends. That's what I have games associated with, at least in my head. So,
I have quite a few story games that I like, so I'll throw that in quickly.
Yeah.
Life is Strange series, really good if you ignore the cringe dialogue and some of the phrases.
I watched the playthroughs.
Then it's good fun. I have all of the achievements on that game. I sweated the shit out of it, and
nice.
the prequel as well, because I kind of like the story. The story,
they're pretty damn good, man.
Was pretty decent. Oxenfree is kind of similar to that. That has multiple endings. It's also kind of like a platformer in the way that it's like it's not a first-person game, so maybe you'll enjoy that. Similar, good for story. Love Skyrim, love Fallout. All of those get their own genre. Played BioShock Infinite, also pretty good as a shooter.
Okay, sure.
A bunch of different ones, right? We're not even going to add them on, but there's loads. But for me, I've got a few different games because they're kind of like party games, what you're saying here. And
usually,
the one which did help me a lot, actually, get through lockdown and connect with people that maybe you wouldn't even play games with because they were downloading it and stuff. You know exactly where I'm going.
I know exactly where you're going with this.
Yep. Among Us is actually a very good game. Like, it had all that you needed. It had 3 different maps. It made you just blatantly lie to people that you would never lie to. It was just like holding yourself back from breaking out laughing when you're trying to convince someone that you didn't murder them in broad daylight is just perfect.
The thing is,
we need more. These are like the indie games I'm talking about. It has charm to it, you know what I mean? And it's huge now too, like merchandise wise as well.
For sure. The thing is, for some reason, Among Us has a bit of a stigma in my head because I don't know,
like
it
a troll
somehow
game,
became over.
Sure.
It got too popular and it got too memey and it got too crazy, and in my head it became a little bit, it became cringe. But you telling me this right now, you're completely right.
It's like when you go back to it, when you actually look at what the essence of the game is, it's like, it's actually a great game. And it's also as well kind of like, why was okay, this is a really weird analogy. Why was football a good game? Because all you needed to do was put the ball down and play. It's like Among Us. There's not too much about it. It's not like, there's all of this interesting stuff going on. It's like you have the tasks, you have someone set out to kill them, and you play, and it will be fun because you will make it fun, and that's just naturally how it works.
It also helps to have a good bunch of people to play with.
Very true.
So and you always learn a little bit more about your friends while doing it too. You learn who lies the best. Like so I didn't learn this through a video game. I learned this through a board game. I forgot what it was called, but again, there was lying involved. You're trying to find the imposter or whatever it was. It could have been werewolves as well. I don't remember. And there's this one friend that is just so good at lying, gaslighting, and so on. And the thing is, I somehow always believe him, even if he's like, you can't tell if he's lying or not, and you just learn so much about people. And Among Us is definitely one of those games that you just learn a lot about people during your playing. It's pretty darn cool, man.
Yeah, I think my other like party game favorite would be Crab Game. I don't know if you played it. It was just like a very quick, cheap spin-off of the Squid Game franchise. So You had like
I haven't played it. I've heard
random
about
little
it.
mini games and stuff, and we used
Yeah.
to play quite a lot of those, and it was funny because it had proximity chat as well, and you would just be in there with like randoms too.
Why is proximity chat so darn good?
Oh, it is very
Why is
funny.
it so darn good?
But then as well, I'm actually looking through my Steam library right now, and there are a lot of good options. Oh, actually, okay. One quickly, I need to drop this in that people might not have heard of. The Ship. The Ship is like Among Us before Among Us existed. Unfortunately, there are barely any servers that exist for it, so I doubt you'll be able to find a game unless you're able to create one yourself.
There's a area called The Ship, so thank you,
But
Google.
you need to go around and like kind of do tasks, but everyone has a target, so everyone is trying to kill someone else.
Ooh.
You have different murder weapons. There are like security cameras around and like people who can get you arrested, and you go to jail if you're like spotted holding a weapon out in public and stuff. But you're like on a ship, right? That's the name of the game. But there are different maps with different ships. And yeah, everyone has someone they have to find, but you only see them by name. You don't see their face. It's like grayed out, so you're like looking around to try and find the people, and it'll tell you what level of the ship they're on, but obviously not what room they're in and stuff. And you have to like go after them. And it's like, where were they last spotted? And then that information can go cold, and it's like it has a few more layers than Among Us did, but like that was also a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now into my like serious pick, my big pick.
Sure, yeah.
I like the Half-Life franchise. That's another one. Not actually the pick. The pick is Portal.
Go ahead, mate. Give us the pick. Enough teasing.
I'm just reading off the whole list, man. I'm such a gamer. Ooh, I love games.
Yeah.
Portal, man. I would kill for another Portal before we get like another Half-Life, to be honest, because for me, just like the subtle story in the background that kind of is way more brought to the forefront with the second Portal game as well.
Yeah.
Just so good, man.
Solid.
Like the little songs with the turret orchestra as well. The was it like Cara Mi at the end or whatever? And when you get taken out, and I'm not gonna spoil the story for those who haven't played it, but like just go and play it and watch all of the like video essays afterwards as well. And again, simple game mechanic, but one that's like super rewarding for like creating puzzles. And again, what did they do? They gave it to the community. You can make your own levels as well. And yeah,
there's a continuation
of
Portal 2, by the way. Some community insanely well made maps. If you're interested in playing some co-op at some point,
there's co-op too, right? Like you can also play co-op. It's not just the main story.
It's a single player one I was referencing, but there's also amazing co-op games as well. The single player one carries on the story from where it left off. Right, so it carries on the story, and it carries on the difficulty as well.
Yeah, it's called Shell, isn't it? After the
give it
main
a go.
character.
It's brilliant.
Yeah,
give it a go. It's brilliant. But yeah, for all the viewers and listeners, by the way, make sure you give us comments as well what your favorite games are and your experiences playing them, because I'd love to hear about them. Because I think I've just learned a little bit more about Hazza right now. And it's
me
awesome.
too. Do you have one final like? Maybe I say you don't play story games. Do you have like one where you're like, oh, that was a masterpiece? Like I maybe
solo,
don't
like single player game.
Something kind of like that. Yeah, I want a single player experience from you, Pavlos. You're a man of the people, and I'm estranging you.
Look, stories and stuff. Look, Portal as well. Half-Life, you said it. But messing around simulator stuff. Goat Simulator. I messed around on that game so much.
Perfect.
I just played so much of that. I played. You've just realized what I play, and I just realized the trend as well. Platformers. I had a fair share of hours on Binding of Isaac as well. A bit of Super Meat Boy.
Goat Simulator is a good one. Actually, I think Goat Simulator is the first game that I ever played with my girlfriend. So if you want to try that one out, then go for it.
I mean, she's gonna love that.
Think about it. It's just like funny goat doing funny stupid things. Like
the game glitching
what I did with her is like,
on purpose.
I just go to like the new map by the coast. I say new map, it's probably about a decade old at this point. And stick your tongue to the roller coaster and fly around. It's hours of free entertainment.
They made a MMO RPG. I don't know if you can call it an RPG, but they made an MMO from it as well. You can go and do missions and stuff. I think I played it a little bit. not enough of it to level up as much. But yeah, you can.
Yeah,
go and
there's
do
a
different
DLC for it, wasn't
There's
there?
DLC. Was it DLC or was it just an update?
No,
to it?
it was DLC.
Well, I
for
must
the
have bought
game.
it and played it then. But yeah, it's
It's the
pretty
third
darn good.
official map, which
it?
simulates an MMO. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
Which is quite funny.
It's
but-
hilarious, mate. It's hilarious.
Yeah, again, I find it funny how we were both like, oh, well, some of these cheap knockoff games aren't great, and then it's like our top list of games is just full of shit like Goat
Yeah.
Simulator. So
That's what I was talking about. Like,
Mm.
these are the ones that are just worth playing. They create memories.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, you don't have to be playing it for the longest time. You don't have to be playing it on years on end. Because let's be fair, the games that you do play years on end is ones because you care about your progression and skill and all of that. So it's going to be multiplayer games because you've developed some sort of skill in it. So now you play it every so often because it feels when you're good at something, you enjoy it. Let's be fair.
I feel like we've kind of left that era now, though, of those kinds of games. Do you know what I mean? Like, we don't get that too often.
As in, they don't
like,
exist?
like, you don't really get, like, a Goat Simulator too much anymore. Okay, like, maybe you would, or...
Probably do. You probably do. We just don't notice it.
I don't know. Yeah, it's true. We're just so
we probably
esports
messed around.
pilled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not only that, like, do you remember how much free time you had on your hands and
We're
how much
not
time
kids
looking
anymore.
at YouTube,
Yeah. Oh,
PewDiePie,
God, we're not kids
figuring
anymore, Pavlos.
mate? It's what it is. Like,
Yeah.
I remember most of the weird games I found were through the YouTubers I was watching, right? Whether that's Cinnamon Toast Ken, Syndicate, or PewDiePie, or
Yeah.
whoever.
I think
and that's how I figured everything out.
I've also just thought of like 100 other games that I had on Epic, which I enjoyed. Like random story games. There was that one where you could jump and dash and stuff, and you had to get up to the top of the hill.
Is it like parkour thing?
Yeah, kind of. But it was also a platformer, so I'm hoping that it's one that you'll know.
No, I don't. I've heard it. I can picture it, I think, but I've never played it.
Yeah. That other really random story game, What Remains of Edith Finch, is actually a banger if you've played it. I don't know if you have or not.
No.
It has some really strange stuff, like when you get turned into a baby and drowned in a bathtub. It's really weird, but it's quite funny. It's like you're uncovering a mystery. It's really weird.
Yeah.
And then also, my other honorable mention is all of the Telltale games, like The Walking Dead with the quick time events and stuff. So much fun. Even like the newer one that they did, right, like later on, that was sick. And also,
You're just going through your Steam list.
The Wolf Among Us, right? Among Us has got its second win, but The Wolf Among Us was good. And they were supposed to make The Wolf Among Us 2 a million years ago, and it's still not out. It says 2024. Is it still not out? It's been delayed again. Amazing.
Not a surprise there.
We'll never know.
Never know.
Rip Telltale.
Oh, Terraria. Honorable mention for me.
Mm-hmm.
Honorable mention. Terraria is definitely one of the
agree.
games I spent a lot of hours on. Beautiful game. Yeah.
I think they had a really good balance between like the aspects of Minecraft with like the building and stuff, with like the boss fights and all of the weapons and stuff. Yeah,
for sure. There's mods to it as well now. Right now, I don't think I played it with mods.
I don't think you really needed mods as much on Terraria, to be fair.
No, you didn't. Beautiful game. Game. All right.
I
think that's it.
Good game. GG. We're done. That's the episode wrapped up. We've spoken about a lot today, Pavlos, and we learned a little bit about each other. How are you feeling about that?
Disgusting.
Disgusting.
I love you, mate. Yeah, it's beautiful. Okay. And like I said, if you guys have got anything to write down in the comments regarding your favorite games, I'd love to read them. Actually, this made me very interested about it. So yeah, cool to see if there's anything I could be playing on my free time.
Oh, all of the Pokemon games on Switch as well. Like,
oh, come on. Yeah, we completely missed the Pokemon games, but I played the
Mario
Game Boy Advance
Kart.
Games. Jesus.
Breath of the Wild.
All right, let's close it here, guys.
Jeez,
before he goes out of, before this goes out of control.
Before the episode ends, one final one. The Wall-E game for the Nintendo DS. My first ever DS game. There you go.
And Donkey Kong 2.
Thanks for watching. Donkey Kong 2. Good game. Bye-bye.
Bye.